Uh, Here we can handle those kind of errors. So next we have here the exceptions, and now we have to handle those exceptions. And how can we handle those exceptions is this way. Okay, here we will say we have a new block. It's called the try except. So we will try this kind of let's say we will check some inputs and we will accept, for example, here this is important to make the user really gives the right value instead of using if else like we were using it. Here we can use, or with counts or something, we can use it with this try except. Let's understand this code first. So here the x will take the int of the inputs, and here you will ask for a number, okay? And here we would have, like, after taking this input, we'll get out of the loop, and if we have a value error, if we don't have a valid number, so we have to try again. And here we will accept also all those kind of errors. If we have some one-time errors, if our code doesn't run, type errors if the typing is not good, or name errors if we have some, let's say, some variable that is not named. We had them already. Type error is name error is this one when the variable is not defined. Type error is this kind of some unsupported operation on the let's say on the by the compiler, doesn't support that operation, or let's say the types, there is some misuse of types, would have a type error. And the one-time error is, for example, when you have some error in your code, and we'll mostly see them. So let's try this type of code, which we are mostly interested in this value error. And here we can type like an A. So here they would say, okay, oops, that's not a valid number. And here we don't hit this break. That's the most important. So normally if he tries here and he has the error here, he will jump directly to this one. And this is where you can enter some other values. So B, and that's not a valid number. 13E, that's not a valid number, but when you give it 12, it's a valid number. So it's fine. I said that there is a use case that I just corrected, I guess, this morning or before I did it in GitHub, for example. We can really have a look, just a look at it and how these functionalities are really useful. They can be really basic, and yet their utility is quite useful. So let's say I'm quite interested into this bots and automation stuff, and I have done already a video about how to use LinkedIn for a wide range of stuff. And here I've let's see the commits, for example, and so this is a very nice tool to, if you want to apply for some jobs. Well, yeah, I hope you would learn a lot with me with those tools. I really share a lot of them. So here, let's say this is my commit, and here this guy, Niccolo Mantini, he merged it because somehow it's useful. So what I said, okay, you know something? There is something that can be done in your bot, is that, you know, I was using it and like I've commented, I don't know where is the comment of this, but I don't see it. Yeah, like it's funny how it's named. I said like, okay, at least your code won't crash with, at least with this, the crash will not persist. So there was a crash actually in this code. So when you see a crash or some error that gets out, so I'm using this kind of bot even now, like let's say it's in here, so I'm still using it, so it's here, this easy apply bot. So let's say here I told him, okay, you know something, I used your bots and it's crashed. I was using this bots and somehow it did crash. It did stop from working because of some error in some entry. For example, I'm not going into details. I'm just saying that just to avoid like these crashes, you can just do something really simple. For example, you can okay, unified. Yeah, instead of just having your blocks not surrounded with some try catch, like this block that will be like try except, you can like put them in some try block, like here try, I put everything in this try, like just a try, like the only thing I changed here is I did this try and I did an except. So I just I tried this whole block and accept whatever exception it is in there and I print the error. So here you can see that actually this is the error that was there. So we have this error was causing this code to crash. So without my, let's say my somehow commit on this one, this code for everybody in this world, if he wants to use this kind of tool, he will it will crash at this moment. Okay, you have an error, now your code will crash. But what I with this kind of very simple let's say try except block, the code won't crash anymore, and that's actually what we want, because sometimes codes crash, and this is the utility of this. So instead of crashing every time and rerunning the whole bot from beginning and doing the whole job another time, you can just accept the error and say, okay, we don't care even if it crashes us at this, you can continue. Because somehow, even if it crashes, normally sometimes it does, for example, the job. Let's say, okay, here for example, it did the job like before the sleeping, let's say, but I'm not really going deep into this. Somehow it seems like working. Anyway, it's better, and in any case, it's better to have your code surrounded in some try catch, let's say blocks. Here we can also create, create some, let's say, handle the exceptions with classes. We will, next one, I guess, this is 8, yeah, next course will be about classes. So let's try to understand this, this code. So here we create a class B that inherits from the class exception. We have the class exception of exceptions. This is the one we use for value, error, blah, blah, blah. This is the one I use as well in here. This is this exception class. and it inherits from this, and we say, okay, this inherits from this, and C inherits from B. What we mean by inherits from exception, it does take all the attributes, methods, whatever, and B class, it's an exception class. For example, you would have runtime error, type error, name error. They would all inherit from exception, for example. C inherits from B, so C is also like an exception class, and D inherits from C, so D is an exception class. And so here from class in B, C, D, try, raise CLS. So here raise, it's also a nice keyword to use with try, except we have try, like the ones we have to keep in mind with this error handling. The syntax, let's say the structure, the main functionalities, let's say with exceptions, they are like try, except, and raise now for now, and we will raise this class CLS. We will raise CLS and with nothing. They are like classes. Here we say, okay, we will raise, for example, P or C or D, and except D when it's D, we'll print D, except C when it's C, it's C, and when it's b, except b, and so on. So here we will start with b for class b class. So b, c, d. So it will be like this. It will raise first it will raise b, second it will raise c, and third it will raise d. We'll get more into classes in the next course after this one. Just this will give you a little glimpse on how also classes can be used with exceptions. Here we can also try to import sys and try to open this file, and we read it and we do some operation. So if we have an OS error, we can have OS error or value error or whatever error. So here we could not convert data to an integer. So here we have a value error. Actually, we could get. We have read the file, so we're not in this case. We're more in this case where we have some kind of very weird info in this my file text that cannot be interpreted as an integer. So if we want to go to the OS error, it's like we will give it a file that doesn't exist, and here we have OS error and no such file in directory myfile.x. But here we have this myfile.x, and here they can't convert this data into an integer. And here we can use, for example, before this we can use this raise, let's say name error, and here we can get directly name error, or it's stuck, name error. Yeah, normally it should be name error or something. Raise name error, something like this. Yeah, well, it's the same, I guess. Yeah, we have like, yeah, name error, yeah, unexpected error class, name error. So yes, definitely here we have this raise. And yeah, and that's what I want to do. So it raises this error, and we go directly. We don't go to this first exception. Neither it's not this value exception. So here we are still trying to handle multiple exceptions. We have either it's this and we have proper handling, either it's this and we have a proper handling, and either it's whatever error. Here it's a name error, or we can just say exception, and we have unexpected error, and here they say what is this error. We can get this info with this, and we can just say, okay, raise exception, and here we raise this exception. We'll raise, let's say, F or something, and here we have some kind of type error exception must derive from basic exception. So here it doesn't actually comes from some basic exception, and still we get in this expected error. Or here we can just do some if else something lol. We'll so we have the syntax error. Okay, no, it would no, we can't actually have from this kind of syntax error. We can't come to this except it should be also syntactically fine. Like it would have it should be like we can do something like this syntax error, and it will go here to the expected error, but it shouldn't be a syntax error. Python should be able to read it and not be something completely wrong. This is for this. No. So here we can also have something like this way. We are trying to do some. Could it open? Yeah, here we are trying to open some file from the arguments we are passing in, since we are somehow cannot open. So we are basically in this exception, and we have this else. So we have also, we can make like try with except with else. So here we try to open this file. So we get some file name from this argv1. Here we get it. We try to open this arg for each argv. Like arg is like one of the list of argv ones. These ones are let's say it's this package we are getting here, and they are like input variables. Let's say there are input variables that this package can access to your data in here, like to the terminal, let's say, and get some data from it. And here we say from each argument in these arguments here, since we have myself, I am running this Jupyter Notebook. Maybe if you run Jupyter Notebook, you will have something very similar. But if you run it on an let's say a terminal or another IDE or another coding editor, you would have something different. But what we want here is to get this OS error. It's just an example to have this kind of OS error, and also like we will try to open it. It won't happen, and we will have this problem. We cannot open this file, and we will have something like else. We can print this arg like and has len f.readlines, and still somehow this file, like even if they say we cannot open arg, we still have like this arg. We are still like reading it, and still tells us that it has 12 lines. So sometimes, yeah, even if you have some exceptions of cannot open, you still somehow force them to open. So this is the thing with exceptions. Sometimes it just doesn't work away, and you can make it work on the other way. So this is somehow the else one. There is there is the finally we'll get to it, but it's to make sure that one has to differentiate else from finally. So this try is, let's say the first one is, we have this, we tried to open, because arg is, let's say there are multiple arg in sysas. So we have one that cannot open. So here arg, we have some arg, it's -f. So first one, we have OS value, arg is -f, we can't open it. Fine. We go into the second iteration, and in the second iteration we have an arg that can be opened. So we try this, we open it, and we don't care about this block, and we go to print it and say, okay, we could print, we have the arg and we have these values. So else can come actually after the except. So we put the except, like we have an exception. If we have an OS error, we print the error. And if we don't have this OS error, we print what we want to print. To make it even simpler, it's just an if we have OS error, we have this, else we have this. So you can think of this except and just think about it as having except like very it's not an else on some try or something, but it's an else of the except. It's like if or else ever else this. So here we have like we have two two args here. So we have this arg first and this arg second, and one goes here. One we can't open this hyphen f, and the second one we can open this JSON. So this is basically what's happening in here. Here we will try to raise an exception with some values inside, and here we can access those values. So we can take this exception and name it whatever we want to name it, and we will try to know what are the qualities of this exception. So what is this inst? So we can normally sometimes we can just name it e and here like e. What is the type of E? E is like for exception. So here we have an exception instance with class. We will get to know about it. We have the arguments of E. Those arguments we give in here, we can retrieve them by .args. Next, E. If we want to print E, it's like the str. We'll get to also see this str representation. Normally, classes have this str representation. I didn't include it in the next chapter, but I will include it in a more advanced one for sure. Next would be, well, yeah. Here we have E. So if we print E, we can print directly its arguments. So let's say we can decompress those variables in those arguments in x and y, and we'll have x, y equal to this and this. So they are like kind of positional arguments. So it's like a tuple of arguments. So these are mainly how you can access error information. Here we have something that fails, and it's a function, and we'll try to run it. And here, if we have zero division, so we can actually take this, like instead of having, for example, this kind of ugly stuff, well, not that ugly, but something that we don't control, that is not that variables as well. Like Python is not that ugly, and neither two variables. When I say two variables, doesn't output too much of text, or doesn't do a lot of error reporting. But this is, for example, the error output of the Python. The standard Python compiler will give you this output. But for you, you want to handle this error, and you want to do just some normal output. And here, say, okay, we are handling this stuff. So instead of having this whole thing here, you just can put just this. And this is what we do with this error handling. You put it the way you want. You print what you want. And this is mainly it with handling those errors. Like just you take them and do whatever operation you want on them. And here you can also like have like general exception. Like this is for any exception, exception for any exception. But if you do something like this, you will have the normal exception in here. Exception because it didn't handle this exception. Raising exceptions, so here we can raise this, and we have a name error, and always with the parameters inside. Can raise value error. We don't have any parameters inside. And here we can try and raise and accept when you have this raised, say, okay, an exception flew by, blah, blah, blah. And here you can also raise another exception inside this except. So here, except, yeah, we'll just, an exception flew by, and here you can we call this, he will, here it's like, he will, it will call the last error raised, the last raised error. So let's say, well, I think you quite get it. Here we have the last one is raise a name error, so here it raises this same name error. If we had some other error, it will raise another error. Can also raise inside of the except.